I think it's
good
essential.
answer.
I mean, it just, when you're talking about trying to evaluate things like, obviously MCAS or
MCAS,
SAT results,
ACTs,
college,
the other, right.
yeah, it's absolutely essential.
The other thing I wanted to mention was that, the long-term plan and budget is a good goal or objective, but I'd like to see that
Well,
actually
let's
played
go
out over
through
a
it then.
multi-year.
Are we through with the first section, which is leadership and governance? We can move on to
Yeah.
financial and asset management. And again, the goal statement is the North Reading School Committee develops and approves a clear financial plan that uses the budget document as the roadmap for fiscal stability, strategic planning, program continuity, and student achievement. The objective is to develop a long-term plan and budget that provides adequate resources for teaching and learning and appropriate educational facilities. And quite frankly, I think this is probably the most important responsibility of the school committee, really, is in the area of budget and allocating our resources. And we just talked about that with the technology.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's important that we
Support.
start forecasting multi-year out.
Well, I do too, Mike. I think in the past,
Within a certain range, of course. give or take.
it's tough to actually, I think it's a lot easier to forecast what our needs are going to be, looking out 2 or 3 years. The budget is really tough. I mean, I'm not sure.
Good call. I mean, are we that off every year that it's, is it off a couple of 100,000? Is it off
Well, there's so many variables
500,000?
trying to look at what's available for
No,
revenues.
but when you look at the
over 3 years
total
and 4
budget,
years.
what are we off? Is there a
do you mean
consistent
off?
baseline, or?
Well, let's define our terms.
Is
If
it
we were
20?
talking level services,
Right.
I can quite easily
That's the difference.
project, you have to start with the definitions, right? So if the definitions was level services, or level services plus, whatever it may be, once we've made those definitions, putting a 3 to 5 year forecast together isn't that difficult.
But that's at level service.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
That's the
we
easy
have to
part.
put a budget with level services plus our needs. So if we're 23 million this year, and we have certain objectives that we'd like to meet as a district.
Agreed.
For example, technology, then next year's budget doesn't reflect level services. It reflects a slight increase
Right.
to meet that need, but we're not doing that.
And we're back to
We're
the
meeting
question of,
level services.
Cliff's favorite question, which is, how much would it really cost to do the things that we think every child needs in the
Yeah.
district?
That
Right.
But we're not giving the town that notice, that warning in advance.
Right.
We're
Well, we
giving
go
them
up
the year
5%.
before.
I mean, we should go, level services would increase about 5 to 6% every year.
Yeah.
But that's all we're giving them
No, Mike,
on that annual budget.
I
You know
think
what
Mike's right. I think that we do need to project ahead, but if we're gonna do that, you have to start now. I mean,
Yeah.
because you need time to develop that type, it's almost like, I won't call it a wish list, but to go beyond level services. What are the technologies, one of the
Right.
areas.
Did we wait to give
it
them the
isn't-
budget at the end of the year,
Yeah.
or we're doing this year's budget now?
Now, the
We should be
reality
doing
is,
Yeah.
3 years.
the reality is, it's a good exercise, and I think it's worthwhile doing it. Bottom line is, are revenues ever gonna allow us to be
No.
able to sustain anything beyond a level services budget? I don't know, but I think it's a
Right.
good idea.
Right.
We have talked for years
Yeah.
now, ever since I've been a member of this committee.
Yeah.
We've talked about what we need to have to educate the kids,
Yes.
what we need. We never get there. We always end up by having available funds to work with. What is available? What part of the town's budget can we have?
But-
And what goes to the rest of the town's activities? And that's what we get stuck with.
Right.
And I say stuck with, and that's kind of crude, I suppose, but that's really where we stand. It's we have this allotment out of the town's total available revenue.
Right.
And until we have more revenue, we can't go anywhere with that. We can't do what we should be doing. And that's a serious problem, and we've said that, over and over again, that we need to get loose from that, but there's no way to get loose from it. There's no source of funding. If we had the funding,
But I
then
think-
we could do great things,
I
but we
think-
can't.
I think the process needs to be in place. We need to put a process in place, so when the town forecasts, the next time our revenues are going up, those forecasts will include those upgrades that we're
But
planning.
it doesn't
But
matter.
without-
We're gonna get a certain percentage from the town.
I know,
We can
but-
do that, but we're gonna get a certain
I know,
percentage from the town.
but you know what, Mel? If we can put together a level services budget for this fiscal year, pretty much
They don't need
just
to
knowing what
spend
it's
it,
gonna
right?
take us to carry forward. I mean, that's not a
Right,
big deal.
right.
Maybe as part of this budget process, we do come in not only with recommendations for what we would like to do over the next 3 years, and each one of us, I'm sure, has different ideas, but also take a little time to maybe cost that out and see what it's gonna cost over, next year, the year, even though it may not be attainable, but at least it shows, or at least we finally get out there.
Right.
This is what we're looking to do to get us
Right.
to the next level, maybe, as far as languages and
And-
I mean, if
technology.
we don't have the money, it's
Yeah.
gonna be stated we don't have the money, but we're not
Right.
presenting anybody
Well,
anything
So
right
we've
now on
done,
paper.
I thought we've already done that in the past. David Troughton used to come in with a budget plan that was $5 million more than we were gonna
We
get.
did, but I don't think it always reflected our,
I guess I
objectives
agree,
going
I don't
forward.
see the difference.
All right, I mean,
Well-
I just, it's something that, we are gonna be a victim of whatever the revenues are when we go to, but, I mean, even projecting out for 1 year, Mike, for the next fiscal year is tough, because in all likelihood, you're not gonna have the revenue to do much more than maybe get to level services. But I agree, it's not a bad exercise for us
Yeah.
to try to identify those areas we would like to expand.
Well, could the town say in 2014, we're going to raise it a percentage or 2 points
No.
to meet your needs? Why couldn't they?
Because then they'll have to lay people off on the town side.
A percentage or two, we've gone from probably
We get
60% to
67% now.
67%
Right.
over the last 10 years.
Right, they've
But I
increased.
think we've reached our,
Yeah, I do too. I
our
think,
maximum.
We're pushing the edge of it, but
Yeah.
I think that Mike's point is right, that we should be telling the town what the shortfall is.
Yeah.
but I think, I
What
thought we've
is
done,
that
I don't understand.
difference?
I thought we've done that every
Well, what do
year.
we
We
do,
haven't
Kathy? I
done it
see-
in
I
paper.
see you're nodding your head.
With
What do we
financial
have?
presentation, we have not, here, we need 3 technology people next year. We haven't put that in there that says, this is what our budget is with 3 new technology positions. Say yes or no.
I thought I've,
Yeah, actually
Last year I-
Kathy had a plan, a personnel plan that said what we
Right.
need going out into the future.
Exactly.
And we should be pricing that out, and we should be pricing out all of the pieces that go with
wanna
that,
take
the
another look at that?
appurtenances.
As
That
part of the
needs-
budget process, I thought we'd be bringing it
Okay.
forward because,
All right, let's take
again,
a look at it in the we'll
it's
do
a
the
wish
budget.
list.
I realize it's more work, but at the same time, I think that the point that Mike makes is that we should be telling the town what the real shortfall is, not what we get down to the last $21 in the budget, and we have to find a place to put that, but that isn't really what the problem is. The
I
problem
think-
is several $1 million difference.
Right, but I think we've had great success over the last several years, taking this level funding, because I can remember in years past, when we sat down and we literally took our budget, and I know David would always, build in some things, but even after that, just start cutting things off to meet the available revenues. Whereas now, we're saying, look, this is what we need for level services, we're not going below level services, and we've managed to meet that budget requirement over the last several years. Because we've taken that stand early. We haven't looked at the revenue figure and said, we're gonna work off that revenue figure. We've said we're gonna work off of level services. And somehow we've been able to get away with that the last few
Like,
years.
I mean, I guess then, how do we project on getting a new full-time IT person? I mean, what's the point of even putting it on here?
Well, let's discuss what Kathy had for last year and see what it looks like in the budget process going forward. I think it's an interesting suggestion. Some of the other things under this financial and asset management goal is, again, to look for alternate funding sources, which we've talked about, again, for years, with the focus on supporting the formation of a North Reading Education Foundation. I know Kathy's had experience in that, so
I was just recently contacted by another person that was part of the initial planning group, and she's offered to, now that she has some additional time on her hands, resurrect the documents and start working toward aggressively establishing this foundation. So I was very heartened when she sent this email to me last week.
And the other area under here, under finance planning team, is, for those that don't know, there's a monthly meeting amongst the chair and vice chair of the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, the finance committee, the superintendent, and the town administrator. And, I'm sorry, did I say, and Kyle, our business manager, Kyle Nelson. And I think that's gone a long way towards a good understanding of our needs by
balance.
by the finance committee and the Board of Selectmen, and is probably part of the reason. I think David Troughton started this, and he was a part of it when it started, and I think it's developed a much better relationship amongst the committees and the boards. That there's more understanding, and I think it's been a big reason why we've been able to maintain level services over the last several years. Mel, I don't know if you want to comment, because you've been on that.
I agree. I think
Financial
it's, I talked to officials from other towns, and very few towns have the same sort
Yeah.
of committee as
Yeah.
this, and I think it's very helpful. And a lot of times, it gets a little heated in that meeting, but that's a good place for it to get heated and things get worked out. And I think it's a great committee.
No, and I'm thinking about what Michael said about how do you grow and expand a district in the period that we're in now, these funding cliff years. And FY12 may be a good example, because even though we all developed this FY12 budget in a level services environment, Superintendent felt strongly that there were some needs beyond level services, and she described them to the school committee. You supported those needs for additional teachers
Right.
here at the middle school.
Right.
So I think that there is precedent for a level services budget in a conservative environment with some added
additions.
important issues that can be added in,
Good point.
along with the vision that gets developed. So
But I still want
Carl's
us
gonna
to
beat
have
me up.
feet on the ground. We need to have feet on the ground. We can have a wish list, but the wish list can't be so pie in the sky.
Right.
Correct.
You know, and that is really, really important. I think when we forecast, we need to also make it sure that it's grounded in what's our economic reality, and give us the chance to identify priorities that help us get toward meeting the needs of our kids and our families. That's it.
Also grounded in, I think it's important that we start paying really close attention to enrollment, which is down about 40 some odd this year and could be down another 50 some odd next year. If we're going to increase the budget and we're dropping enrollment on a year after year basis, we're going to have to really do a great job of justifying. I'm not saying we don't need technology specialists, and we don't, but if enrollment's dropping, that's a tough environment to be raising your budget.
But it is, Mel, but we're coming down that hill now. Enrollment went from 1,850 students in 1991 to 2,650 or 2,700.
It went to 2,800
And
almost.
2,800,
Yeah.
and incrementally, we had that was where we experienced a lot of our budget problems
And the
over the
budget
years.
never kept up with that.
The budget never kept up, so we've got a lot of catching up to do. So as the enrollment drops, it's a drop, and it's the first time it's dropped in a while. But it's not a major drop at this point, the 40 or 50 students. But, so I hear what you're saying, but I think that at this point in time, it gives us the opportunity maybe to,
Yeah, I just think we need to keep an eye on that,
Yeah.
because if that continues, I don't think it will, because I think we have a lot of young families
Right.
moving into town, and we're gonna see
well,
it.
look at the sixth grade classes, 227, is that, am I right?
Well, the one that just,
45.
yeah,
Yeah, so there's
So,
some big classes
right.
still out there.
It is a big class.
It is. It is. Also, under the financial and asset management, we have a whole category for the secondary school building project. And, part of our responsibility there is to provide the leadership necessary for approval of the project. So that's also a big part of the financial and asset management category. Under educational programming, we come back, well, the goal statement is the school committee establishes an overall education plan and provides a framework and environment which supports the success of this plan. The objective really is to support the administration in efforts to improve student achievement. And we do talk a lot in here about that data and being able to take the data that we have and evaluate it to see why we have certain results and consequences from that. Kathy, I don't know if you want to expand on that at all?
As we continue to develop our strategic planning process with the leadership team, we'll be using data in order to formulate some of the activities that will take place and to set measurable targets for improvement. So you'll see how some of that data comes into play as we plan for future activities in the district. So we'll constantly be revisiting the data that's available.
And again, we do talk under this particular goal about education, instructional technology, explore adequate staffing to support instructional technology integration, and identify resources to support technology staffing and infrastructure improvements, which, again, is a major issue. Anything else under educational program? And then under parent and community relations, and again, the goal statement is the North Reading School Committee engages stakeholders and other citizens through open, transparent communication and opportunities for feedback resulting in a positive image of the school district. The objective is to foster active partnerships with parents, community organizations, and businesses, which result in ongoing productive communication and support for education. I think we've made some pretty good strides in the communication area.
You
The
can't-
articles in the
and
newspaper.
they're all over the place, I
terrific.
know.
They're really good.
What about adding organizations that come to the meeting and discuss a particular topic that we've set as an agenda item?
I'd like to
maybe
see,
like the PTA or something that comes.
well,
as-
that, or I'd like to even see, I know